Peter that day took a risk. He's a risk taker. He wanted to get out of the boat. He wanted to walk on water. It's impossible to walk on water, but he took a risk. You know, sometimes in life, if you don't take risk, you don't have rewards. On the other hand, sometimes you take a risk and things can go very badly for you. So risk takers, they're either great successes or great failures. But he was willing to take a risk. To take a risk spiritually means you have to exercise faith. I looked through a list of people in the Bible that took risks. God called Abraham. He said, I want you to leave the Ur of the Chaldees and I want you to go to a land that I've designated for you. That was a risk, you know that? He had to leave his family. He had to leave the comforts of home, the stability of his life there, and he had a journey to a land where he didn't even know where it was. He took a risk. Worked out okay for him. When Moses was called by God, he's 80 years old. I always say he was a washed-up old shepherd on the backside of a desert. And God came to him in a burning bush and said, you're going to lead my people. He had to take a risk. He had to leave his comfort area and somehow go to Egypt and lead 2 million Jews out of bondage. That's a big risk, isn't it? It's a risk. Joshua, when he faced going down into the promised land, the previous generation said, we're not going to go, there's giants. But Joshua said, we're going to go. We're going to take a risk. We're going to start with Jericho, and we're going to defeat all the giants and everybody else. He took a risk, and it turned out well for him. Take a risk. When Elijah challenged the prophets of Baal, 450 prophets of Baal, let's have a contest. Let's see who the true God is. And that was a risk. He had to depend that God was going to send down fire from heaven. We see how that turned out. When Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego chose not to eat the king's meat and drink the king's wine, they took a risk. Yet 10 days later, they looked better. When Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, we're not going to bow down, they took a risk that they would be thrown in a fiery furnace. But we see how that worked out. When Daniel said, no, I'm going to keep on praying despite the fact that there's a new ruling that you can't pray for 30 days, he took a risk. We see how that worked out. Every apostle that was in that boat that night had taken a risk. They all had jobs. They all had families. They all had stability in their life. And each and every one of them were called to leave their jobs, leave their family, leave a stable life behind, and go follow Jesus wherever he was going to lead them. They took a risk.